What is the most outrageous waste of money you have witnessed with your own eyes? I work as a freelance musician and often stand in for wedding bands. Have worked at lots of weddings where clearly the families have crazy money. One thing I always see at the fancier events without fail is a ton of amazing, fully prepared food and expensive drink being tipped thrown away at the end of the night. When I asked about it once, I was told by one of the staff that a lot of catering companies are trained to prepare enough of every menu option so that if everyone orders the same thing, they have enough. What happens in reality is they tip away enough food to feed the wedding party, often of 200 plus people, another 2 times over. Particularly annoying when the band are served cold chips as their evening meal because we couldn't stretch the budget, sorry. On a more positive note, one of the funniest things I've ever seen was a drummer successfully sneak out of a catering tent, having liberated a whole wheel of cheese that night. I'm a VIP tour guide at Walt Disney World. Each guide costs $600 an hour and charging starts when you ask us to meet you, whether you're there or not. A family booked 2 of us multiple days in a row and wouldn't show up until typically 2 to 3 hours into being charged $7,000 plus overall paid for tour time they didn't use. Didn't care at all. I work at a car dealership as an apprentice mechanic. Now I've seen many examples of people wasting their money, be it car parts, dumb accessories, whatever the list goes on. But there was this one guy that would spend literally $75 on a car freshener and bragged about it constantly. He'd call himself elite because he bought these $75 pieces of scented cardboard. I don't know what went through his mind every time he'd buy one of them. Some rich dude in the Hamptons buying a pallet of Fiji bottled water for his hot tub. My roommate plays Fortnite and buys every single skin that come out. Every one. I worked at a 5-star beach resort. Rich 30-something-year-old mom comes in around 10 morning to buy sunglasses. $500 Prada shades? No big deal. These people have fuck you money, so I think nothing of it and return to work like the good pleb that I am. This bitch lost the glasses in the ocean, buys another pair, loses that pair, then complains that we won't give her the 3rd pair for free. So she pays for the 3rd pair. This all happened before until 3 in the afternoon. $1,500 in sunglasses in 5 hours. My boss bought a $30,000 boulder to put in his front yard. When he was 8 years, Buddy got hurt in a supermarket because of random boxes in the walkway. His mom sued, and he got rewarded $18,000 in a settlement. However, he wasn't able to touch the money till he was 18. Anyway, when he turned 18 in 2009, he got all of the money all at once. He immediately went out and bought TVs, the biggest of course, an Xbox 360S for 4 family members. Then he paid the $500 down payment on a brand new car and leased it for $350. Mo went to a local sit-down restaurant and paid for others to eat there multiple times, and I don't even want to think about his online shopping. This went on for a month and a half. One day one of his friends made him a deal. It'd buy him a laptop of equal value at the time for his Xbox 360. They went to the store and went to pay for it. His debit card got denied. When he checked his balance, he had about $150 in his account. Had a friend who was in his late 20 years and lived with his parents 100% dependent. Dude worked a part-time job and said he was saving money for something big. We all assumed he meant like moving out or a trip out of the country or something. No, this guy bought a $750 pair of sneakers and then put them in a display case. I haven't spoken to him in about a year. Friend bought a new fully stocked car he couldn't afford on his salary. He said it's okay because he's getting another job that pays better wages. Only thing is, he hasn't taken the exam to get his license for the job yet. In Las Vegas in 2000 year the Bellagio, I watched a guy walk up to a high-roller blackjack table. He was being followed by a security guard and some guy in a suit carrying what we guesstimated at about $300,000 in chips. He sat and played blackjack by himself. We watched for about 45 minutes and he had already lost over $150,000. Never once showed any emotion. No clue who the guy was. He was dressed like a stereotypical white grandpa in jean shorts, a polo shirt, and white New Balance tennis shoes. I also worked at a high-end footwear factory, making pairs of leather shoes that retail at $500 a pair. The owner was a self-styled anarcho-capitalist and had some entertaining ideas about how to run a business. He had some notion that his staff would work harder if we were afraid of bankruptcy, so he stopped buying leather. I don't know how these things were connected. Naturally, we could not make more shoes. We told customers that the wait would be longer than ever for their shoes. Sales stopped, orders stopped. I swept the floor 10 times a day. He refused to buy leather for 3 months, while keeping all of us working, paying our wages with his own credit, because he was mad at someone who told him that his strategy was idiotic. The company was bought out by another old boys club entrepreneur dickhead after the owner ran out of money. Co-workers putting $300 in a slot machine. Lost it all in a few seconds. Then he asked to borrow some money because his kids are coming to visit. I guess I know why he was devorted. I just bought a $17 plain burger at a concert venue. Not sure the amount of money, but it was a lot of bacon. I once worked for a warehouse primarily focused on food storage services. A client company was storing some pre-cooked bacon for use in some product they were planning to release. They decided not to release said product and ordered all of the bacon we were storing for them to be destroyed. We loaded multiple trucks with close to 150,000 pounds of perfectly edible bacon to get tossed in a landfill. Saddest day of my life while working there. Before anyone asks, there was an auditor from the client there making sure all of the pallets of bacon were loaded onto the trucks and none fell off. High school head of math department buys about 10 pallets of chalk and retires the next year. The new head of the math department decides to switch out all the chalkboards for dry erase boards. They aren't allowed to throw out the chalk and aren't allowed to share with other departments who still use chalkboards. They had a room full of chalk for at least 7 or 8 years that no one was allowed to use. Definitely not the biggest sum of money, but spent for a really stupid reason. I bought a $300 bottle of scotch when I meant to buy the $60 version from the same distillery. The boxes looked nearly identical. When the cashier told me the price, I realized my mistake, but she and everyone behind me in line seemed really impressed that I was buying something so expensive. So now I own an unopened, very expensive bottle of single malt because of my social anxiety. I had a friend buy a pound of cheese at a very upscale cheese store because he tried a tiny bit and thought, what the hell, I'm on vacation, I'll splurge. No prices on anything, stuff cost him $200. He was too embarrassed to say he made a mistake. Side note, it was freaking delicious. But not $200 delicious. I have a friend who will book vacations to countries other coworker book trips to just so he can say he's been there first. Tell him you're going to Syria. I was an assistant manager at a grocery store, and you wouldn't believe how much produce I threw out, because it wasn't pretty enough. The district manager set a high standard of how the produce should look. If I didn't cull it correctly, he would write me up. He came in 1 to 3 times a week, so I couldn't get away with not doing what he asked. When I looked at weekly reports of the shrink, produce amounted for about $100 to $200. I asked him if I could donate the produce we throw out, and his response was, that's theft. I was so glad when this place went out of business. I used to have something to do with warehouse logistics and whatnot. A new manager came in, and his first project was an order of about $500,000 worth of pallet. These weren't wooden pallets, but plastic molded ones, specifically made to fit the forklifts that we were using. The order had to be made overseas and brought in by freight. They had to be exact measurements, of course, to fit the forklifts. He started bragging that my sales department made all the money for him to spend. A few months later, the pallets arrived and none of them fit the forklifts in our warehouse. Except for one. Turns out he measured only one of the forklifts for these pallets. That one forklift was part of a unique, non-standard system used for minor moves. Faced with a warehouse of $500,000 worth of plastic pallets that won't work with our standard forklifts, the guy was swiftly asked to resign. But yeah, now we use wood pallets. My brother needed a plastic bag to carry some of his luggage that wouldn't fit in his suitcase. He decided the best plan was to pull off the interstate at the next exit. and buy something in order to get a bag, despite not needing anything to eat. He chose an expensive sandwich, a drink he didn't need, and chips he didn't need. Spent about $15. As it was sunny, we sat outside the store whilst he ate what he didn't need. We get back in the car and hit the road. About 10 minutes later, he says, "Fuck, I threw that bag in the trash." In a donut shop on a Friday, guy has cash and keeps buying scratchers. Goes through about $400, then finally stops and says something about paying rent. My brother graduated from law school. We were having a lunch before the graduation event. My grandpa ordered a $500 bottle of champagne for him and his wife at lunch. The waiter mistakenly thought he meant for the entire table of 9. The waiter brings out a $4,000 Magnum bottle of champagne. My grandpa, not wanting to be embarrassed, opened and accepted it. We all drank what we could and he had the rest sent up to his room. It was about a $6,200 lunch. I was in a McDonald's at 4 morning and a guy bought 98 Happy Meals just to piss off the staff. Here's a photo from the night. The guy handed them out for free. This was in England in 2014. My roommate is a rich international student. His parents own a very successful business in Beijing. He spent 1,300 Canadian dollars on a brand new iPad Pro, mind you. He already owned one, so that he can have one iPad plugged into our speaker, and he can use the other iPad as a remote to change the music. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Write in the comments below the video your stories of the dumbest money wasters. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new super interesting videos, and I also advise you to watch our other videos.